Joining us right now, I have a major soft spot, not just for the sport of mixed martial arts, but Team Alpha Male in general. Uriah Faber and that entire camp. And getting to watch Josh Emmett grow as a fighter has been an extreme pleasure. And him fighting Shane Burgos Saturday is just one of the most hardcore fights you're ever going to see. Two warriors out there. And when it was all said and done, we found out a lot more that Josh Emmett was going through. He joins us right now, still in his hotel room down in Vegas. Josh, it's Dave. Thanks for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
The fact that you are so
given
awesome,
the circumstances,
right? You're doing good. You're sitting in we talked a little bit before this. Just repeat for everyone if you can. You just got treatment, and now you're sitting getting more treatment, huh?
Yeah, so I'm still down in Vegas. I originally, after the fight, I was just going to head back on Sunday, but since I was injured, the UFC wanted me to stay out in Vegas so I can get, an MRI on Monday, and then they can expedite the process. And so yeah, they're covering my wife and I's flights going back. They extended our hotel stay. They're going to reimburse me for a car, and they were just taking good care of me. So I'm doing treatment twice a day. So I'm doing one in the morning at the UFC Performance Institute, and then I go back usually in the early evening. And that's all I'm doing. So I'm going to stay down here the rest of this week, or actually till July 2nd, basically. So I'll do my two treatments a day, and then next week I'm doing the same thing, 2 treatments Monday through Friday, and I'll probably start throwing in some strength and conditioning in there with like upper body, and then just doing a lot of things more like vestibular work, just like tracking different things with the strength coach down there. So it's they're taking great care of me, and I'm working with one of the best PTs in the country at the Performance Institute. So she's awesome.
The MMA world and much of the sports world knows why you're getting this treatment. Just for people who didn't watch the fight, 3-round fight, insane fight. Josh wins, and we could tell something was wrong. The announcers were talking about it a little bit. Something had happened with that knee. Turns out, amongst other things, a torn ACL, a partial MCL tear, focal impact fracture of the femur, damaged cartilage, and a lot more on this list. And Josh, it seemed like it was about 15 seconds into the fight. Did you just plant wrong? Do you remember the point? Because I know you're adrenalized. I mean, do you remember right when it happened and how it happened?
Oh yeah, I remember exactly what happened. I just kind of overcommitted on a punch, and it was almost like I kind of like a slip with my left leg. And I just hyperextended my knee. And so that I counted it was like 17 seconds into the first round when I rewatched it. And that was the most painful thing. So it's like, I know people are always talking about adrenaline and things like that. And yeah, we have adrenaline, but it's like, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been, wrestling at the collegiate level. I've been doing mixed martial arts for over a decade. So it's like, I'm so comfortable, and I'm so calm and composed, and I'm not nervous or anything before the fight. It's like I feel everything, and it was a pain that I've never experienced before. It was so painful, and I had no stability in my knee, so it just kept buckling. And so at that point right there, I worked so hard during this pandemic, and the lockdown for training and everything, and I was just like, yeah, with my luck,
right.
Biggest fight of my career today. I'm the co-main event. It's on ESPN, simulcast, ESPN Plus, and ESPN. Only sport up in the world running. And I just had to decide right then. I was like, I have 14 and a half more minutes. I'm literally, when I say I'm willing to go through hell and anything and endure ridiculous amount of pain to get my hand raised. I don't just say that. I've done it time and time before. So I bit down on my mouthpiece, and I adjusted the game plan. I typically move a lot. I couldn't really move. I couldn't kick with my right leg because my knee would buckle. I couldn't, put my weight on my left side, like dip over to go, rip the liver or throw uppercuts and hooks. because it would buckle. He'd kick me on the inside of my leg, and it looked bad on TV, but it wasn't because he was kicking me hard, which he was, but my knee was buckling every time. So I just said, I'm not going home with one check in my mind. I'm going to do everything I can to get my hand raised, and it paid off in the end.
Josh Emmett joining us. Josh, it's, you're fighting in front of Dana. As you said, the spotlight is on you. This is a moving day type of fight, getting you setting you up for a huge fight with your new contract. And I know that you don't have this huge crowd watching you, but there's everybody on TV. There's people watching. So not only do you have to deal with the pain of blowing out your knee, you also have to deal with a guy who wants to beat your ass and is throwing things, trying to make you unconscious. And then on top of that, and this is what nobody can understand unless you're in there, you've got to somehow try to hide the fact that you are in tremendous agony so that your opponent doesn't seize on it and take advantage of it. How the hell are you able to guard against that? And do you think Shane Burgos at any point had any sort of real idea you were hurt?
Yeah, I think he did, because, several times, like right when it happened, I grabbed it. I backed up, it buckled, I grabbed it again. It was painful. My knee kept buckling, and his coaches were saying things, and he was targeting it. He was trying to kick me in that leg, calf kicks, everything. And I don't blame him, because right. I would do the exact same thing, but it is what it is. And even going back to the injuries, when the time that I did that, when I tore my ACL, I guess my femur and my tibia, they came back and they hit so hard that I actually fractured my tibia and my femur, and I took a huge chunk out of the cartilage on my tibia. So it was definitely, I definitely felt that. But the good thing is, Burgos is an aggressive fighter. I knew he was going to come forward. I knew I was not going to have to chase him around. So it kind of played in my favor, honestly. He's a big featherweight for the division. He has the longest reach at 75.5 inches. His reach is longer than like welterweights and middleweights. And he still kept coming forward. So it made it easy for me to land punches, So, I appreciate him doing that instead of him just like using that reach and just kind of, staying on the outside and using that jab. So it really did help me in the sense just playing right into my game plan.
And knowing how hurt you were, I know how mentally taxing it can be sometimes when you repeatedly hit a guy with everything you have and he's still coming at you. And I was watching you. I knew you were hurt, Josh, because I was watching how clean you were landing shots, that cross especially, and he's still coming. And obviously you hurt him throughout the fight, but those put people to sleep. Did that help you a little bit mentally, realizing how hurt you were, maybe being able to say to yourself in the fight, okay, don't get discouraged. You're throwing haymakers, you're landing, but they weren't nearly as powerful they would have been if you could have planted.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You nailed it. So I know I was throwing hard, but I know in my mind I wasn't sitting down on my punches. They might have looked hard, but and they were, but I'm just saying, like, sure, typically they would have been that much harder. So I knew I was landing big shots. I could tell, like, he was I could see his face. I was blooding him up with a jab, and yeah, I feel like if I had two legs, I really don't think he gets out of the first round, honestly. Right. Like, I hurt myself first 17 seconds. I was going to go out there and show the world, like, really, like, just my whole package of my game, but that went out the window in 17 seconds. So I just had to resort back to just, like, staying in the pocket and bite down my mouthpiece and just fighting him in a phone booth, and I just had a good poker face going back to, I was injured and I was like 14 and a half more minutes. I can't, I'm never going to cower away from a fight or give up. You literally have to put me out. And I think most people would have given up or quit right there, like I said, or looked for a way out. And then with the injuries, it would have been okay, for most people. But for me, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Josh Emmett with us. And Josh, coming out of that fight, the other storyline other than your fight and what you went through was the Max Roskopf fight, his relationship and the back and forth with Robert Drysdale, who's been in the octagon, who's fought before, obviously has been around the sport forever. I don't want to wade you in there. I want to come back to why Team Alpha Male is so special. People may not know you wrestled at El Camino. You very much understand this area and what Uriah and that team means. And I know you had, amongst others, Danny Castillo in your corner, another former WEC UFC fighter. Talk to us a little bit about that relationship and that trust, and knowing that you have supremely intelligent people in your corner that not only understand the sport, understand you, and that had to be a lot of teamwork there, not just for you, but for them, and understanding that, yeah, you're effed up, but you can still go out there and you're not in any real danger, in other words.
Yeah, 100%. It helps a ton when I have Chris Holdsworth. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He was UFC vet. He got injured. I feel like if he did not get injured, he would have been a bantamweight world champion. He could still be a champion now. He is so damn he's so good. It's crazy. And then having Danny Castillo, he was a WEC vet. He had so many fights in the UFC. Yep. He's fought the who's who. I have Joey Rodriguez, my boxing coach. It's like we worked together for so long, and those guys know what I'm capable of, and I trust them, they trust me, and they're basically playing a video game from the outside. And it's like if they call a shot, like I can run the play, or run the combo, and they knew right away. Like that's the first thing that went through their mind, is like as soon as that happened, they knew. And it was like same thing. They're just like sitting their head like, yeah, with his luck, and like throwing out the F word and stuff like that. They were pissed,
right.
but they know me, and so they know I'm not going to give up like a lot of people would. And so it was awesome just to go in there and perform for them and get a big win and keep our we're saying it's the summer of TAM, and right. We're keeping that ball rolling. And yeah, so it was awesome. And then just everything Uriah has done for our team and everything, just providing us with one of the the best training facilities in the world for the lighter weights. And he just, during the pandemic, even expanded his gym. It's like another 22,000 square feet or 25,000 square feet they opened up, and that's going to be our new training facility. Inside is already huge ass gym. So it's we have a lot of big things coming, and I'm just excited for the future. I wanted to get back in there and fight as soon as possible, but then this happened. But there will be a silver lining and a blessing in disguise, and that's the way it always happens. Like I always, come to some type of speed bump in the road, but then I go a different path, and something bigger and better always happens. And so, I haven't found that yet because it's only been, a few days, but I'm sure something big will, transpire from this. And I'm just sitting back and trying to stay as positive as possible during this time.
Well, you should, as Josh Emmett joins us. And as we wrap up, I mean, you impressed a lot of people who didn't know you already fell in love with not just your skill, but your heart. I got to ask you real quick, though, this is the first time you fought in almost a year, and this is really the first time, more importantly, you fought under those circumstances. You talked about your corner calling out different combos and everything. Dude, 15 seconds in, you blow your knee out, so you were thinking about other things. But does that get in your head, being able to not only hear your corner and everybody else hear him, but I imagine you could probably hear some of the commentators? Is that a strange scene to be in?
Yeah, man, this whole thing was crazy. It was, we came out to Vegas, the UFC rented out an entire casino. I mean, an entire hotel. There are security guards at every door. We have cameras. We have to, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We get here, we get tested for, the coronavirus. Everyone comes back negative if you're positive, or you have some false positive, they are negative. They cancel the fight, and that actually happened on this card. But anyways, we still have to have our credentials to go in. We have our key cards. We have to wear masks in there. It's the most bizarre atmosphere. And then after we make weight, we do another test, and then we're on lockdown until we go and fight. So it was just standing there. It's like, I listen to my walkout music. The crowd is going crazy. I get pumped up. I'm like, I warmed up. I went out there. I'm standing on like my staging area in a dark, empty hangar.
Right.
I see Shane Burgos running in the octagon, and then I'm just like, I'm not even sweating. I cooled down a while ago. It's, he filled out. He's a huge guy, so I look at Danny and Joey, and I'm like, he filled out, right? And they're like, yeah. And then it's like, then the music goes, right. My walkout music, and I'm trying to like pump myself up. I'm like, I'm cold and everything, and there's no one there. So I'm like, I started to like kind of like bounce around. I was like, oh, screw this. I just started rolling my neck out and
right.
walked up there, and I told them, because I was cold, I was like, I'll warm up in the first round. And then,
right.
And then I busted my knee, and I was like, man, it was just like the circumstance, and like, worst case scenario, like every little bit about it, but I made the best of it. And Dana White was like jumping out of his seat and clapping and yelling and like screaming, and that was the first time that he saw me fight live.
Yep.
And I knew that it's different than watching on TV. If you were there, the sounds and the thuds, and like when we're hitting each other, it is so loud. Like I've hit Burgos so hard multiple times that even my coaches were cringing, because they're like, oh, that sounded so gross. Like,
right.
Because it was so damn loud. Like you have no idea.
Bro, it reminded me of, honestly, I said this to my wife, we were watching the fight. It reminded me, it wasn't as bad. He wasn't as jacked up, but it reminded me of Gaethje Ferguson, where you just watched Ferguson take this insane amount of punishment to the point where you had no idea how he wasn't sleeping, and knowing now what we know, that you weren't able to plant, but I'm sitting there going, dude, Josh is hitting him with these night punches, and it sounds gross, and this dude is taking a ton of punishment. I imagine being in there, same thing. You're just like, God, this guy's face is made of metal, but also you couldn't plant. I get it.
But it was funny, and then Dana, he was so entertaining, and the whole time I was just thinking about my knee, so I was all pissed off, and I didn't think it was that exciting or that great, just because I'm my worst critic. And I was like, oh man, I didn't get to like really showcase what I wanted to, and I wanted to go in there completely outclass him and make it look easy and put him away, and I didn't. But Dana's like, oh, that was best fight. He's like congratulating me and all this type of stuff, and I'm besides the knee and possible long recovery, I'm glad in a sense that the way it went, because everyone was saying that, oh, that was obviously the fight of the night, but then people are saying fight of the year candidate, but which I don't agree with. I think the Gaethje, it's one of the better fights this year, but
sure,
Gaethje Ferguson fight was better. The Joanna Zhang fight was better. But it's up there though. It was an entertaining fight, and so I'm glad a lot of people did tune in and see that, and I reached a different demographic and a lot more new fans. And then when I got the results, and Brett Okamoto, I just got off the phone with my PT, and he's like, hey, did you ever get that MRI? And I knew he would leak, so I sent him the list, and there was so much more going on with my knee than I actually posted on social media. And then he's like, whoa, and he posted, then it started going crazy again. And Ariel Hawani's like, is this true? I'm like, yeah. And it was just nuts, and it's nonstop. So it's like, it just makes another, great, it's just a part of it's a part of my story. And I've had to overcome so many things not only in my life, but in my MMA career. And it's going to be that much sweeter when I do get that featherweight title wrapped around my waist, and I bring back the first ever UFC featherweight title back to my city of Sacramento.
Wrapping up with Josh Emmett, last thing, speaking of that, I was texting with Danny Castillo in his corner. I was texting with Danny shortly after the fight, and just to make sure, wanting to know how you were, worried about you, and I know you've been in the spot before, and I know Danny was nervous too. You're waiting for that last fight. You know you got that 50 grand in your pocket for fight. You know you've got it, but you can't. You had to be with everything else going on, sitting there going, Blades, don't you dare take my 50 grand. And of course, it turned out good stuff. You ended up getting the 50 grand. Hopefully, that'll be some sort of fun for you at some point.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely help because and that's the thing that was going through my mind when this happened. I was like, could you imagine if I just kind of gave up or like looked for a way out and then I lost? I got one check and I had all this crap the next day. That would be so depressing. But at least I got the win. I got 3 checks. I got a win. This is horrible, of course, but you know I'll be okay, and it's going to motivate me. Like as soon as I get the surgery and I'm going to be so motivated. I'll come back even better and stronger and than ever. You know, I had a 4-week camp. I got that fight on 4-week notice. I had a hard 3-week training camp, and then I came out to Vegas and cut weight. So I'm excited for my next fight, and they're saying possibly 6 to 9 months if I do the full knee reconstruction. But I feel like with my body and the way I heal and my discipline and everything, I'll beat that. You know, I'm going to beat that time, and I plan on fighting in, 6 to 7 months. So we'll kind of see what happens. I'm just hanging out down here for a few more weeks, doing rehab, and then I'm going to take it from there because there's a lot of people that do not need ACLs, and there's been Olympians. There's people in the UFC that I know of that don't have an ACL. They completely ruptured theirs as well, and they're doing really well. So I may be one of those lucky people. That's why I'm being so aggressive with my rehab so quick. And I'm working with one of the best ladies there is out there. And I'm going to reevaluate this in like 2.5 weeks and maybe give it a shot to not do the surgery, just depending on how I feel. If the swelling's down and everything, it's only going to benefit my recovery. So if swelling's down, muscles are firing again, and then I go do the surgery, it'll speed up the recovery process on that as well. So I'm literally just playing it by ear.
Well, you made this whole region so proud. Such a, people don't realize how blue collar Sacramento is and how much they appreciate hustle and grit. And you had a lot of fans already. You got a lot more. You performed your absolute best under insane duress and in front of a lot of people that you needed to perform well in front of. And, they say, I say this, Josh, with all love, I'm older than you. 35 is the new 25, so you're going to be just fine.
And I got into this a little later than most, so I've only took in a little damage in one fight. So
right.
Well, I hope I got a good 4, 5, 6 years left in me.
We're going to check in with you throughout this, hopefully shorter than for normal person rehab, and get you right back up there in the octagon. Of course, take your time. Of course, make sure you're 100%. But we'll all be here when you're back in, and we'll check in with you when the not just when the spotlight's on, but when the spotlight's off, and get a check in on all the work you're doing. But we're very proud of you, and I appreciate you taking this time this evening to talk to all of us.
Of course, anytime. Thank you, Dave.
It's the Carmichael Dave Show on Sports 1140 KHTK.